Hi there, it's Lianne coming to you from liannephillipson.com and Sproutright headquarters. Thanks so much for joining me on this Facebook Live, whether you're watching live as it's coming through or you're watching it after. Please post any questions that you have below and I will get back to you with a reply on those. Today's topic that I wanted to talk to you about and get a conversation going about is a plant-based diet. So the plant-based diet in its truest form is really no meat, no poultry, no fish, no dairy, no eggs. So some of you may be thinking, okay, well, what else am I supposed to eat? So I've dabbled in the past with a plant-based diet, and it worked for me for a while. Just as I was studying nutrition, I kind of have tried all the different diets just to see how it sits for me because we're all a little bit different. And if I'm going to recommend something or be able to support someone through it, then I feel like I need to have done it myself. But over time, I slowly started to bring more animal-based foods back to being vegetarian, and then now I eat meat. So in the truest form, as I said, with no animal products, then yes, we could also call this vegan. For whatever reason, in this movie that I'll tell you about in a minute, documentary that I saw recently, they didn't use the word vegan throughout, they used plant-based. I personally love the term plant-based because I think it just talks so much more about plants. Sometimes when you hear the term vegan, you think, I don't think I can do that. Or, that's all about animal activism and all those kind of things, which is totally great for a lot of people. I'm just trying to stick to the food situation with all of this. So recently, my 12-year-old daughter and I, my older daughter was away, we stood in line for an hour to see this documentary at the Hot Docs Festival in Toronto that just caught my eye. I think it was on social media or something like that. And it's called Game Changers. Truthfully, is the best name and the most fitting name for this documentary because I was absolutely blown away really about these elite athletes that were eating a plant-based diet. Now, although I say that the documentary was really based on these elite athletes whose bodies have to do so much more than what we do when we run for the bus or you go to the gym or you're doing some yoga. So if these people can do it, then, me, myself, who's done more of a rigid or more focused exercise regime since the beginning of the year, which I'm totally loving. And I've been dabbling with super high protein levels and then trying to, I'm a little bit more interested in this plant-based situation now. So it's good to change things up. I think our bodies get used to something in different ways, just like it's great to change up exercise. So I go and I do a lot of weights and then I also go and do yoga. So my body's sort of not expecting that and it gets challenged in a different way, which is fantastic. Anyway, back to Game Changers. So from a world record holding strongman who was just had these crazy sideburns on his face, and this guy was huge. He was eating 7,000 to 8,000 calories a day. Just mind-blowing. To weightlifters that hold world records, and then there was the elite special forces trainer and winner of The Ultimate Fighter, Jane Wilkes. So he was all the way through. He was narrating. He was did a lot of the interviews. Really fascinating guy, and just genuinely on an exploration for himself, having been injured, and then through his journey of figuring out how to heal himself, because this, using his body and teaching all of the mixed martial arts that he does to all sorts of armies and all of those kind of things. This is what he does. So he had to get himself healed after an injury. So after I saw the documentary, then I felt like I should have had a notebook to write down all of these crazy things. So I reached out to the producer, to James, to get an interview. So all of those questions and answers are on liannephillipson.com. So do head over to that blog if you're interested in a little bit more about his journey, much more information about some of the studies and all of those kind of things that were going on. So have a look on liannephillipson.com for more information on that. Absolutely fascinating. interview and really great answers to a lot of my questions. So I think what really got me in watching this documentary was how I heard the word stamina, energy, strength, circulation, and excellent health so many times throughout. I thought it was a really powerful association between food, obviously talking about diet, and how they felt. And I was so glad that I had my 12-year-old next to me, and that she was hearing it, because there still are a lot of people that don't really put the two and two together, is by how your health is, how you're feeling, how your energy is throughout the day, and diet. So those two things can really have a bit of a disconnect going on, which I think is great, just to really cement that association. So I was really grateful for my daughter to see that. So there's tons of science in there throughout the documentary, including individual experiences. There was a squad of Brooklyn firefighters, and they were trying a plant-based diet for 7 days. And they shared all of the results of that, which also that was a specific question I asked James, so the results of that are on my blog as well. But just mind blowing. And sorry, let me just turn that off. Just completely mind blowing, and really finding this information of just everyday people changing their lives, doing different kind of things, was just absolutely amazing. So, as well as the other experiment, which I really think got all the guys in the audience, I talked about this on radio with Jerry Agar the other day, which was really funny. So there was an experiment where 3 college football players, they used a Scan device, which is measuring the circumference and duration of their overnight erections. So they gave them a meat-based diet, a meat-based burrito, 3 different meats that they gave to these 3 guys, and then next night they gave them plant-based protein in a burrito, and then they compared the difference. And if there's one scene or one area in the documentary that just had the whole theater howling, it was that one, and it's just hilarious to see what the guys are doing, because it was, anyway, it's fantastic. So I also asked that question, and the results are also on that blog on sproutright.com. So we do know that a plant-based recommendation is already being talked about even before, sorry, I can't turn that off, even before Health Canada releases the new food guide sometime this year, that eating a plant-based diet, their recommendation is a high proportion of plant-based foods without necessarily excluding animal foods altogether. So with that recommendation, we really, knowing that, I think, takes pressure off anyone who maybe is thinking of, is this the right thing for me to do, or how do I start? So what James actually talked about, and that's in the blog as well, was how he got onto doing a plant-based diet and what his progression was, how long it took him, and what his journey was. So that could be some inspiration for you. So in the Game Changers, the issue of low iron and B12, which typically comes up with a plant-based or vegan diet, that's talked about so much, as well as how much protein, or how am I going to get all my protein, and all of those kind of things. Those were all touched upon. And the theory that came up in Game Changers is that even chickens are low in B12 because they're just not getting the nutrients from the process of eating the dirt and all of those kind of things. So everyone needs B12, from the cow to the chicken to us as humans. So just take a B12 supplement all the time. In my consultations, I do a method of testing to see what people need, and B12 actually does come up quite a bit. So not everyone needs it, but it's pretty common for B12 to come up for people. Not so much iron, no matter what their diet, is. So having your iron checked by blood test is the best kind of way to go. So in doing some of my research and all that kind of stuff, I came across the term reducitarian, which, is another sort of catchphrase or whatever you want to call it. I kind of thought it was perfect. So if you're thinking about doing or sort of progressing into more of a plant-based diet, then, just look at where is the animal-based protein coming from? Where's your meat? Where's your dairy? Where's your fish? And I'm not saying that these foods are bad for you, but if you're wanting to lessen the inflammation in your body, that is one of the biggest things. As soon as the inflammation lessens in the body, that's where the cardiovascular risk is. That's where the pain and the aches go away. That's where the cancer risk is reduced. So really, in any situation of inflammation in our bodies, reducing that is always an amazing thing. So, fluid, sometimes at different times of the month, I get more fluidy and things like that. So my kidneys and liver being able to flush all of that out perhaps might be better on a plant-based diet. I don't know. I'll try it out and I will let you know. So just increasing more plants in your diet. And that's why I love the term plant-based diet, because increasing the amount of plants in your diet is probably one of the easiest and healthiest things that you can do for anyone. So the science that was presented in the Game Changers, like I said, it was a completely mind-blowing experience. It showed incredible results, but then there was also what the real people were doing. These 3 guys doing the Ridgey scan, the Brooklyn firefighters changing their diet and then being assessed again to find out how are they doing, how is their blood pressure, how is their cholesterol. One guy's cholesterol went down in 7 days by 107 points. It's crazy, just crazy. And he was really not wanting to go on any medication. So he, for instance, is completely changed because it's a family history issue, and the doctors were just freaking out because his cholesterol was so incredibly high. So, your own experience is really going to dictate what it is that you want to do and how you're going to progress with something like that. So how can you go plant-based? Where do you start? So you could go cold turkey and just take everything out. I'm not sure that I'd recommend that, because that really leads to more deprivation unless you are really set up and know what it is that you're doing. And the way that I consult with individuals in consultations, one-on-one situation, we're always progressing nice and slowly, because when you're changing your diet, you want to make changes that are going to stick, that are just not a, sort of like a Whole30 diet. So for 30 days, I'm going to do this, which is a great thing to do, but getting into it can be really quite tricky. It depends if you just want to do more of a cleanse type of thing, or if you want this to be more of a lifestyle change. Now, anybody eating more plants is always a amazing, fabulous, good thing. So the extra fiber, the antioxidants, the alkalizing effects from fruits and vegetables and plant-based is always a really amazing thing. So even if you just do that, even if you just have more greens in a day, even if you add more beets, carrots, green beans, edamame to your diet, fabulous. Just start there and do all of those kind of things. I don't know if cold turkey is the way that I would necessarily recommend, unless somebody was saying to me, this is how I work, this is what I do, and this is the way I want to go. So maybe just plan in your mind over the coming weeks to find alternatives. Perhaps start with maybe an almond milk or a non-GMO or organic soy milk in the place of milk if you're adding it to your smoothies. Please don't take a glass of milk and swap it for a plant-based milk and think that it's going to taste the same, because it won't, and it doesn't. And then as you move, and also like in coffee and tea and things like that, it's just different. If you go in expecting it to be different, you won't be disappointed. And if you pour it on your cereal, it's still the same thing. So maybe lessen the amount of cheese that you have in a day, or then you can look at the meat. What's the meat that you're having? Can you have a more vegetarian source of protein? Can you have more beans? Can you have lentils? Can you add a dip to something that you're having? Put avocado in there too. So those kind of things are really, really great. Eventually you can get to giving up eggs, whether you eat them or not. If you don't, obviously it's not a concern. And then fish could also possibly be a last thing that you're eating. So I've kind of been dabbling on going by having tons of lightly steamed vegetables. So I take a whole broccoli head and I chop it up and I lightly steam it so it's bright green. I prefer that texture to, really crunchy. Actually, broccoli and cauliflower just lightly steamed or quickly blanched I find more pleasant, and then I just have a big container of it and throw it into all my salads. Lots of leafy greens are going in there, grated beets, grated carrots, grated zucchini, all of those are fantastic. And I'm getting some proteins from hummus, from beans, lentils, avocado, non-GMO edamame. It's always a favorite. My kids love those, popping them out, because you can get them either in the shells or out of the shells. So one of the other biggest questions is, where on earth are you going to get your protein from? How am I going to do this, especially if you're working out? So all plants have proteins in them. So don't think that your body is going to be deficient in protein. If you have a wide variety of foods going and plants going into your diet, you'll have enough protein. If you're working out, if you're doing muscle training, weight training, you're building your muscles, you're doing resistance training, then yes, you need a little bit more protein to really help to repair your muscles. So adding in a plant-based protein powder is a great way to be able to do that, as well as getting in, all the rest of the whole grains and things like that. But we need the variety of amino acids consumed in a whole day is the perfect way to do it. And, maybe add a plant-based protein powder. So that could be from peas, that could be from rice protein, and then you add that into your smoothie, or some of them I believe you can just add with milk and then just go ahead and have it. So it can really be as slow of a progression as you want it to be until you're completely satisfied with your diet. So don't think that, oh my gosh, I've got to do this, but it's just a slow progression of, oh right, okay, so there is some cheese in that, even though you've maybe at a restaurant and think you're ordering something vegetarian. Okay, well, today you end up having a little bit of cheese. Not a problem. Tomorrow you do something different. Or if you're on more of a plant-based diet and you go and consume something like cheese that's on something, or you go to a barbecue and there's only burgers and all of those kind of things there, eat it and see how you feel. It's really important to do experiments. I'm always experimenting with my diet. How do I feel? Do I feel like I've eaten enough? Just because somebody says I need to eat my body weight in protein, how do I feel when I do that? Felt great in the beginning, then I didn't later, so I changed it up. Really, really important to be able to do that. If this is something that you're interested in and you feel like you need some support, then in the coming days we're going to launch a slightly different structure to our consultations. So be sure to look out for that on social media and in our newsletter. Hopefully, if you've signed up to our newsletter on liannephillipson.com, then you'll get all of that information. Sometimes we just keep things specific for our newsletter subscribers, for our community. So you definitely want to be involved in that so that you're getting all the up-to-date information and all of those kind of things. Otherwise, I do offer consultations for 2, 4, 6 months, depending on what it is that you feel that you need. And on both liannephillipson.com and sproutright.com, you can book yourself in for what I call a discovery call, where we'll jump on the phone just so you can get an idea of what it is that I do in the consultations if you need a bit more information, because sometimes diving into working with someone, you think, well, is this going to be right? So let's just get on that call and get a bit more specific for yourself. So that's a bit of an introduction to the plant-based diet. Game Changers documentary will hopefully be out towards the fall once they have the distribution that they found. So as soon as it's out, I'll definitely be promoting it. It was just a lovely experience, so much so that I went back again and saw it a second time and jotted down even more. I took a notebook the second time. So I just think it's just an eye-opening experience to be able to see the other side, and if it speaks to you and if it's something that interests you with whatever's going on, then give it a go. All right, so I'll be back on in a couple of weeks to talk about something else. If there's something that you would really like me to specifically talk about, then by all means comment below and then I'll get to that, or any other questions that you might have, then just pop that in there too. So thanks so much. Go and eat some more plants, no matter what it is that you're going to do with your diet, no matter what changes you're going to make. All right, take good care, and thanks so much for joining me today.